So going into the next international break, Chelsea are currently third in the table with 19 points. And the table is pretty close at this moment in time. I feel like there isn't too big of a gap. But I want to assess Maresca's so far time at Chelsea. How has he been? His positives and his negatives? What can we expect for the future? And kind of just our overall talk about the truth about Enzo Maresca's time at Chelsea. So coming into the season, he had a lot of stick. I don't think people gave him a lot of fair shade. A lot of people use the idea that he was a championship manager to really slate a lot of him and not give him a fair representation of actually showing who he was at the club. Not to mention, a lot of people didn't really do their due diligence, so there wasn't a lot to expect. A lot of people complained about his rigidity, specifically with tactics and how stubborn he was. And then in preseason, he tried like 4 or 5 different systems, different play styles, different positions. And even through the season, we've seen him to be able to be quite flexible in terms of changing things up. So I think he's actually shown a lot of the things that came as criticisms to be not necessarily true. I think let's start positive and then I'll go negative because I want to give the balanced viewpoint and talk about Maresca's time overall. I think the biggest positive is really how he's managed the squad as a whole. I do think this is also slight negative, which I will touch on a little bit more. But granted, look at all the media news and everything that was coming up at the start of the season. Oh, how do you have this much squad? Oh, how does he deal with stuff in the press conferences? Oh, why is this player not playing? Why is this player not playing? And I feel for the overall, he's been very thorough, very coherent, and managed to give his ideas across that us as fans and the media know exactly what it is. He's not working with 40, 50 players like the media were trying to portray, specifically through the transfer window. He's working with about 20 to 25. Not to mention, when people ask about positions, he's been very clear and say this is where everybody plays. Being able to address the media and be able to present yourself not only to just the media itself, but us to as fans to make things clear as possible is very important and is something that you have to be, which is an underrated requirement as a manager. One thing that I used to critique Ten Hag for is he's unable to really articulate himself well. You can say that is a language barrier, and maybe so, but being able to communicate with people is an important skill just as a manager and just as a person in general. It's one of those things that you just have to be able to do, if you get me. Now, one thing that, like I said, he's been able to manage the squad, and I do have some critiques, but I don't want to get too much. But just being able to give people a platform to perform, whether that's in the Europa League, I wish, in the Conference League, whether that's in the Premier League, whether that's just wherever, he's been able to give them an avenue to be able to showcase and at least have performances. Then we get to my second thing, and it's just the overall performance and development of players. A lot of things that I critiqued Poch for was that I feel like he stagnated a lot of players, specifically from the defensive and midfield side. I think from the attacker side, he did platform them a lot well. I mean, I'm not necessarily going to say that Poch is the reason Palmer is who he is. However, he did give him the opportunity to excel and kind of build those connections with somebody like a Jackson, which even if I'm not a very big Poch fan, I'm actually one of his biggest haters. I have to give credit where credit is due. His ability to improve something like a Caicedo, and I know Caicedo has been dropping good performances, but we can see he's gone to an even greater level. However, he's be able to position him properly, and that's one thing that's been very important that I really had issues with last year. I don't think he's done it perfectly for everybody, especially someone like Enzo Fernandez. I don't think his profiling has been good. I don't think his profiling of Palmer the last 2 games has been particularly well, even though I understand that he's trying to do it to try get a tactical advantage. However, I don't think it has worked so well particularly. I think at the end of the day, being able to take risks and be able to experiment while also being able to profile your players is very good. People such as Fofana and Colwell, and granted, one thing that a lot of people don't want to take account is these people are young players. One has come from a long-term injury. These things take time. They will be inconsistent. They're not going to be 100%. A lot of people have expectations of the great players that play for this club because they were coming in already winning stuff, already coming in with expectations that when we add someone like a Hazard or stuff, all we're expected to do is to kick on. I think a lot of these players are a young core group. A lot of them have no experience with winning. And because of that, we have to be realistic that young players are going to be inconsistent. It's just a fact. So Colwell started off the first 6-7 games, one of our best, in the conversation for one of our best players. And I think the last couple of games, he's been very inconsistent, hasn't been good enough, made some errors. Maybe the occasion got to him a little bit more. And now people are flip-flopping on them, and I think Maresca has managed to platform them. Fofana, a lot of people were ready to give up to him after his year-long injury. And then now look, last game was probably his best performance I've seen. He was very, very good. He was our best centre-back, and he's looking more like the centre-back that we bought those years back in Leicester. Or even back, I think was a Saint Etienne, with him and Saliba, where they were, very cold partnership, being the golden generation, these people. And yesterday we saw that. Another thing that I really like in terms of his positives is, like I said, with the player development, is just his overall, I guess, managing of the squad and showing off player relations. I think one thing that is very important is that there needs to be a fine line of how you talk to each player and to be able to empower them. A lot of people have given up on Mudryk. I'm not necessarily one of them. However, I think his press conferences and being honest about them, to be able to tell them what it is, whether it's being honest with someone like a Ben Chilwell to say that whether you agree or disagree, he's not someone who's going to play, and has been able to talk to him, I'm hoping, in private, to make sure that there is no lost love. I think just being able to develop players, to challenge them, to be able to ask more for them, to be able to put them on a pedestal, to be able to showcase their best talents is something that's very good. And then overall, being third, if you ask me this at the end of this thing, even though I did predict us to finish third because I'm an optimistic fan, I think it's really good. Even if I do think we have some critiques and stuff that we can go through, which I will nicely go now and then kind of assess everything. So when we come to like some of the criticisms in terms of Maresca and his time here, I'll talk in the most recent things, and it comes with the utilization of the squad. One thing I really like that he said in his press conference is how much he loves the squad in comparison to someone like a Pochettino who complained about certain things. I don't think Maresca has been very airtight in terms of what he thinks he needs in profiles, and I think he's been able to articulate that very well. However, one thing that has, I guess, annoyed me is he's talked about how he's a big fan of Felix, he's a big fan of Nkunku, but hasn't necessarily given them a platform to be able to succeed. Now, I'm going to have a lot more eyes on him during this period now, because we have, I'm not going to say favorable run game or fixture, but it's a lot easier because in the Premier League, every game is difficult. And we see this specifically with how the league as a whole is so tight. Like, it's only really Liverpool has pulled away from everybody, right? And everybody can beat anybody. Like, let's keep it stacked. That's why we call it the best league that it is, you know? And because of that, I don't think he's given people like Felix, whether you like him or not, a fair chance to really showcase his talents. In Nkunku, he's given him damn minutes. You know, like, it's the last couple minutes of the game. He chucks him in on striker, doesn't really change the system to make sure that he can be in a platform to be able to succeed, and kind of leaves them high to dry, and I don't really rate that. This kind of piggybacks to my next thing, and is the favoritism of certain players. Noni Madueke is someone who I like. I think he's a good player. I think I will say I'm not going to be, you know, oh, he's good this way, because, you know, when I wanted him to get dropped before the Norris Forest game, he went and proved me wrong. I think he's had poor games since then, the Forest game, and has been allowed to keep playing. Now, granted, Sancho was out. Granted, maybe your first choice was because of the defensive stuff. You don't want to play like a Felix left wing. Maybe you don't want to play in Mudryk. But if these players are going to shell out in the Conference League, and they're going to have good cameos even when they come on as a sub, when are you going to start trusting them? Or is your opinion on the squad really as positive as it is? And this is why I said, for this point, I'm really going to give him his time during these next couple of runs, because I want to see when we come against the Leicesters, the Evertons, these teams where, you know, maybe we can be a little bit more braver. Understand that out of possession thing is something that he's hampered on multiple time after again. He's like, yo, these men don't do good enough out of possession, and I completely understand it, innit? But you have to give these people an opportunity. You have to give them the chance. I feel like a lot of these games that we've had against the big teams, there were chances that we could have taken to beat them. Man United for me was inexcusable. I won't hear it. I get we were bad. We managed to get a draw. It's a place we're not good, but we should have beat Man United, and no one's going to change that mind. And I think he was tactically naive throughout that game. Arsenal, I think he could have been a little braver. I was very disappointed that he played Gusto and Madueke again. I understand maybe you don't think Reece is ready for that role, but we know someone like Cucurella can play that inverted role, which means that you could be a little bit more adventurous and maybe play another attacker, someone to support. And like I said with the Madueke, if Madueke can drop stinker, and then you play him again and again and again, what message does that send to the squad? What message does that say to Madueke? How are you going to keep him hungry? One thing that I really liked before was that he was keeping people chopping, changing, you know, keeping people hungry. I feel Mudryk deserves a chance, whether people rate him or not, based on his performances. But if you can't give him a chance, then I'm looking sideways towards not necessarily just his management of some of the players, but back again to the recruitment. But that's a conversation for another thing, and I'm not going to go and delve in too much into the recruitment, because as a whole, Chelsea is in a positive place. I just think we could have capitalized on some of these games, specifically as we don't look so far behind the top of the table, like I've said before at the start of the season. The Arsenal, we didn't look out of place. If anything, we had great chances that Gusto should have buried, and then potentially we're looking at a different game and we go on to win that game. Liverpool, I think we needed that little bit more quality to be able to project ourselves to do better. Man United, like I said, inexcusable. Newcastle, we got it right and we managed to win and potentially could have been 3-1. But even then, Isak, if he had made better decisions, potentially could have made it 2-2. So it's like, it's fine margins. And his persistence to play that bozo Sanchez, I'm sorry, he's the only person who I will not give a fair shade, because anybody with eyes can say how week in, week out, he has costed us. He costed us Martinelli, near post, bro. Allow it. United, rushing out. Højlund's going nowhere. Allow it. Liverpool doesn't run to Curtis Jones. Leaves him to take a touch. Goes in. How many games is he going to cost us before we give Jorgensen a chance? I'm at the Conference League games. I can drop the clips. I'm there. I watch him. Jorgensen and build up his clear of Sanchez. I don't know how he is with saving, but he made some good saves against the Conference League. I get his Conference League. It's not proper position. We don't know how good he truly is. But how are we ever going to know if we don't give him a chance? What can Sanchez keep doing that is over him? And if you persist with him, it becomes me getting angry at Sanchez. Now I'm looking at you because you're the one giving him that responsibility. It's the same thing with Gusto. Gusto isn't good offensively, especially in those half spaces. We know this, but you keep playing him there time and time again. I can't get mad at Gusto because he's not good at the role, but you're putting him in there and it's at a detriment him. One thing that I said with Palmer myself hasn't been good enough in these big games. That doesn't mean he's not a big player. I'll make a video on that because people lie on his name and it's cool. When you become the face of things, when people start putting you on a pedestal, there's a reason why I'll say, when there was a point in the fan base of trying to do Palmer can be better than Hazard, and I said, of course, someone can become better than anybody. There's no expectations to say not, especially with the start that he's had. He's been a very key person. He's been our best player. Not this season, I think I said he's been our best player, but you know, that's what he commands. He commands the best player title when we think of who is the face of Chelsea. But he hasn't done no Hazard type performances in terms of he has been able to push us when we need him most. Hold on. Last year he's done it, but I'm talking about when you're now the attention, the focus. Look, one thing I love about Hazard, regardless of what anyone says, because he had to suffer with playing with dead teams and overperform. When it became to the title races, the second half of the season, where it was 14-15 or 16-17, everybody knows Hazard put the team on his back and dragged us to that title. Whether it's goals, assists, performances, he performs again and again. So when the people in the fan base were like, oh, the way he's going to clear, I'm like, relax. I watched Hazard week in, week out. I know the levels he sent, even if he's not goal scoring and assisting, and that's what Palmer can do. So I have issues with the fact that he didn't manage to step up because I pride him on that pedestal, and it pisses me off when fans want to defend people so much that they set an expectation for them, and then when they don't play to the expectation, there's an excuse. No, don't do an excuse. Just say you weren't good enough and we expect more, and that's it. But similarly, Maresca hasn't helped with Palmer profiling to make sure he does well. And this is where I've had some issues. Against Newcastle, it worked with the left hard space because you're managing to prevent Palmer from getting triple, double teamed, because now Jolinton and stuff, they're going to have to follow him. He can be quick and pass it off. But similarly, we know in the right hard space, that's where he excels. He has that partnership with Madueke. So if you're going to play him, at least it helps both of them. Not every day the same tactic, which is something that is also his strength and weakness in terms of what he's done this season. Play these players at their best. Let them profile. And it's something that I critiqued Poch with, so I'm not going to change my standards just because I like Maresca a lot and I'm a big fan of him and I think he's going to achieve great things for Chelsea. We have to keep it consistent and just talk about it. But these are things that I think are easily fixable, and I believe he will. So as long as he's not too stubborn in terms of that, because he's shown some flexibility in terms of tactics and stuff, I believe he will get it right and be able to help players perform. I think that's it. I'll be so real. I'm trying to think. The only other thing is just in the big games to be a little bit more braver, which I think in our return fixtures we will see. As a whole, we're about, I think, 9 points ahead in terms of the fixtures that we've seen from last season. Is it 9 or 6? There's a graphic, I'll find it and I'll probably post it. I don't remember. In terms of like the exact same fixtures last season compared to now. So there's an improvement. We're on 19 points this season, I believe. It took game week 16 for Poch to get to 19. Guys, oh my day, terrible guy, terrible. And there's clear improvement. We win a couple games, which I think isn't, I'm not going to say, like I said, favorable run, but we're building up momentum. And I think as we get to like January, we'll really see the truest reflection of this Maresca team and see how far we've come. So as a whole, it's been very positive. I'm very positive. Obviously, I have critiques because I rate the manager. I rate what he's done. I rate the style of play that we're potentially trying to implement. And I see things that can help us, platform ourselves better. The biggest critique that I want Maresca to really iron out is to change your tactics based on your opposition. Whether that is platforming of the team, or that's platforming of deployment of players, because you've been, like you said, you have a squad that you rate. And not only do you have a squad that you rate, you show to me that you're not so rigid in your tactical prowess. However, there's been of recent, these last couple of games where I think that you've tried something, you see it not work, and then you're trying it again, and I'm confused why the stubbornness is coming in now. Is it because you don't trust these players in the big games? Okay, I understand, but there is still some tactical tweaks that you can make to at least change the dynamic a little bit. You see, I think the quote that he said of, there's a saying in Italy that what's it called? If you're not going to win the game, it's better not to lose it, something like that. I get that, but I need you to be ruthless, because I'm not saying we're in a title charge. It's delusional to say that, right? But if there's an opportunity to be as close to the pack as possible, I want us to take that opportunity and then build from it. Because the quicker we get these players with the experience of being in those situations, the better we will be when we finally get to where we want to be. So I'll say so far, as the first couple of months for Maresca has been great. I've been very happy. I think he's a manager who can take us in the right direction. I think he's the manager who's going to be able to take us back to where we should be. And that is winning league titles, winning Champions Leagues. I think he can do that. But similarly, I do think there's some flags and stuff that we need to be wary of, and I do hope he takes into account, and I hope he becomes the manager that I think he is and showcases that throughout the season, because it's been a long time, you know, since I've been very positive about Chelsea. And more than just that, the lows make me more annoyed because I know he can do better. With Poch, it's kind of like I accepted, this is just who he is. Obviously, I just accept it. Those last 4 or 5 games were not tricking me, and the fan base were making me lose my mind, because I'm like, what have you seen that is making you change your mind? Because this guy didn't do it for 33 games. So 4 or 5 games of good stuff does not move me. I'll be so real. The development of players have been better. I can actually watch a press conference from my manager and be entertained because he's actually talking about football. It's not just, we have to work, we have to do passion. No, he's talking football, tactics, breakdowns, explaining why he does this, what's his reason for this. It makes it engaging. There's a connection that's being built there. And I just want our team to be successful, and I hope over this December period we can continue to platform on everything that we've been done. And yeah, I'm just excited to see where we go, man. It's been a decent month. If you ask me, we're third right now, not 4 points behind City, who are in second. I'll take it. Just, the league is tight still, so we need to just capitalize and start separating ourselves from the pack, and we can build from there. But obviously, let me know what you think about Maresca so far. What have been your positives, your negatives? What do you think about his terror? I said terror, his reign so far as a Chelsea manager, and what are the things that you want him to improve? One things you want to, my biggest improve, free Carney Chumeka, man, free my dog, bro. I don't care, Maresca, free him. But that's the last thing I gotta say. So obviously, thank you guys for watching, and I appreciate if you can show some love. Obviously, drop a like and subscribe. It would be greatly appreciated. And obviously, if you see the thing, I burnt my lips, so that's why it looks kind of mad. But yeah, man, obviously, peace still.